You took your final breath, and the world did not vanish. It changed. The air grew still. The light dimmed. And standing at the edge of it all was a figure with the head of a jackal and eyes that held the weight of eternity. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. He was already guiding you to where your soul would be measured. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Pantheon Mythology, and this is Anubis. He's one of the oldest gods in the Egyptian Pantheon, a presence carved into tomb walls long before Osiris rose as lord of the afterlife. Anubis, the jackal-headed god, was there when the first kings were buried, when the desert wind moved through open graves, and when boundaries between the living and the dead were still being written. He ruled the underworld in those earliest days, overseeing the passage of souls and the sanctity of the grave. Even as the myths changed and power passed to Osiris, Anubis remained, the embalmer, the protector, the silent guide through the veil. And now, thousands of years later, he's found his way onto my desk. That's right, we've created 2 limited edition desk mats in collaboration with our friends at Epic Desk. This is genuine premium Pantheon merch made with one goal: to make your space feel like it means something. Built with precision, stitched edges, a premium surface, and weight that holds its ground. But what makes them powerful isn't just how they're made, it's what they represent. One honors Anubis, god of the dead, keeper of the rituals, guardian of the tomb. The other reaches further back, into something older and more primal. Both were designed to bring presence to your space. Whether you work, think, game, or create, they turn your desk into something that reflects what you stand for. This is a one-time drop. The collection closes on the 3rd of August, and once it does, the mats are gone for good. You'll find the link in the description. Make your choice while you still can. To understand Anubis, we need to go back to a time before Osiris ruled the afterlife, before the Great Pyramids had pierced the sky. In these early dynasties, death was raw, unstructured, and sacred. Bodies were buried in the desert sands, their shallow graves exposed to the elements and to the scavengers that followed. The jackal was feared. It haunted the edges of burial grounds, drawn by the scent of decay. But rather than being rejected, it was transformed. The people looked at the creature that prowled their tombs and saw something ancient, watchful, and powerful. From this fear came reverence. The jackal became a guardian, and Anubis, its divine reflection, rose as protector of the dead. His worship began in Upper Egypt, spreading through the necropolises like Abydos and Saqqara, where his priests transformed the sacred rites of embalming in his name. Before the theology of resurrection emerged, Anubis was already preparing the dead for eternity, preserving the body, guiding the soul, securing the tomb. There was another jackal god known as Wepwawet, the opener of the ways, associated with warfare and guiding the pharaoh in battle. Over time, their roles merged and shifted. Anubis took on the duties of guiding souls, while Wepwawet retained his role as a divine scout. The lines between them blurred, as political and religious power consolidated and Anubis's cult grew in prominence. As kings built more elaborate tombs, Anubis remained at the center of the funerary tradition. His presence marked the boundary between life and death, between this world and the next. Anubis is the process of death made sacred. His name, Inpu, carries meanings tied to decay, purification, and the return of the body to the earth. But for the ancient Egyptians, this wasn't something to fear. It was something to prepare for, preserve, and protect. In their world, preservation was power, and Anubis was the one who held it. He wasn't a god of resurrection, he was a god of the body, of the skin, of bone, the rot, and the stillness. He represented the truth that death begins with the flesh, but doesn't end there. His presence stood for control, for transformation, for the belief that even in death, there is order to be maintained. To call him Lord of the Corpse was to recognize his mastery over the most fragile moment of existence. His domain was more than tombs or souls, it was also the boundary where death meets preservation, and where the future of the soul was shaped by how the body was honored. But how did this reverence for the transformed body take shape in the real world? It led to a system, an art, handed down through generations. A science of death, guided by the god who never looked away. He stood beside the body, a guide, a presence felt in every movement, every chant, every fold of linen. When the embalming began, the priest took on his role, donning the mask of the jackal and becoming the living image of Anubis. The process was precise. The body was washed and purified, each organ was removed with care, placed in sacred jars under the protection of the 4 sons of Horus. The heart, believed to hold memory and truth, was treated with special reverence. Natron, a powerful salt, was used to draw moisture from the flesh. This stage lasted 40 days. What remained was then packed, filled, and wrapped limb by limb, layer upon layer, with resins, oil, and linen. Each bandage carried a spell. Each turn sealed the body for its journey ahead. One ritual stood above the rest, the opening of the mouth. A priest acting in the name of Anubis touched the eyes, the lips, the ears of the deceased with a sacred blade. This restored the senses. It allowed the spirit to speak, to see, and to hear once more, essential qualities for facing the trials of the Duat, the Egyptian underworld. Through every stage, Anubis remained close. His presence guided the hands of the living and prepared the dead for what lay beyond. In ancient Egypt, death marked the beginning of a journey. The soul moved between worlds, crossing through sacred spaces, encountering powers and facing what lay beyond. The passage wasn't aimless, it was guided. At the center of that guidance stood Anubis. He belonged to the space in between, the threshold, a place neither fixed in the world of the living or anchored in the next. His role was to walk beside the soul during its transition, ensuring the crossing was complete and protected. The Duat, the Egyptian realm of the dead, followed structure. It was a world shaped by gates, guardians, and laws rooted in Ma'at, truth, balance, and order. The path through it required preparation. Anubis brought the soul to that path, steady and focused, with every step grounded in ritual. His position was unique. He didn't reign from a distant throne or pass judgment from above. He moved with the soul, close, watchful, calm. A figure trusted to carry the dead across the liminal space between one life and whatever came next. Tombs were sealed with his likeness, prayers called him by name. His black form, the color of fertile soil, stood for renewal. His presence at the doorway was a promise. The journey had a guide. In the Hall of Two Truths, the soul reached its moment of reckoning. A great scale stood ready. On one side, the heart, the center of thought, memory, and emotion. On the other, a feather, light and pure, representing the principles that shape the universe. This was a measure of harmony. A heart that aligned with the feather revealed a life lived with balance. One that carried too much weight signaled something else entirely. Anubis stood at the scale, calm and exacting. He maintained the balance, allowing no disruption. Thoth recorded the result with perfect clarity. Nearby, the creature Amit watched in silence. her form combining the most powerful beasts of Egypt: lion, crocodile, and hippopotamus. This moment reflected the structure the Egyptians held sacred: a world governed by truth, a soul carried forward not by status or ritual alone, but by the weight of its choices. Anubis had guided the body through death, the soul through transition, and now he guarded its final crossing. In the earliest centuries of Egyptian belief, Anubis held authority over the dead. He was both guardian and ruler, receiving the body, overseeing the tomb, guiding the soul. But as dynasties rose and the new theological centers gained power, the landscape of the afterlife changed, and with it, so did Anubis's place within it. The rise of Osiris marked a shift in order. No longer was death simply about protection and passage, it became a promise of resurrection. Osiris, once a mortal king, became the god who had died and returned, bringing with him a vision of the afterlife shaped by renewal and divine judgment. His myth offered continuity, inheritance, and rebirth, and it resonated deeply with both priesthood and people. Rather than fade, Anubis adapted. He became the embalmer of Osiris, the one who prepared the body of the newly risen god with reverence and care. Anubis preserved the king of the dead, granting him the form through which resurrection could take shape. From that moment forward, Osiris ruled the underworld, and Anubis, once sovereign in his own right, now stood beside him. His role became more focused, more precise. He was no longer the final destination. He was the one who made the journey possible. In this transformation, Anubis did not lose stature. He gained clarity. He became the architect of the sacred body, the facilitator of divine renewal, the one trusted by gods and mortals alike. He governed through precision, ritual, and presence. The myth of Osiris rose, but it was Anubis who shaped the body that could rise. Anubis was a symbol of precision, guardianship, and sacred transition. Every element of his image and title carried meaning shaped by thousands of years of belief. His most recognizable form is that of a man with the head of a jackal, ears high, snout elongated, gaze fixed forward. This form reflected both function and fear, combining the image of the grave watcher with divine control. In ancient tombs and papyri, Anubis is frequently colored black, not to resemble the jackal's coat, but to evoke the fertile silt of the Nile, the color of regeneration and the promise of continuation. The black skin marked him as a god who presided over the end, but also the preparation for what came after. While many modern interpretations show him in greys, bronzes, or even golds, these choices reflect artistic variation, not the original meaning. His titles are layered with significance. Kenti Imentiu, meaning foremost of the Westerners, linked him to the realm of the sunset and where the dead were believed to travel. He was also called Imiut, he who is in the place of embalming, a name defined by presence and ritual, by action and proximity to the dead. Anubis was often shown holding a was scepter, a long staff topped with a forked end. It signified control, authority, and a stabilizing presence between worlds. He also appeared with an ankh, a symbol of life, reinforcing his role in preserving the soul's journey beyond death. Long before his image adorned temple walls or sarcophagi, Anubis lived in words. His name appears in the earliest funerary texts of Egypt. In the pyramid texts, among the oldest religious writings on earth, Anubis is called upon to protect the body of the king, to anoint the limbs, to prepare the path into the west. He is described as one who tends to the corpse, who opens the gates for the soul, and who ensures that no harm reaches the deceased on their journey. These texts treat Anubis as an immediate presence, active, attentive, and reliable. The coffin texts, used in later periods by nobles and non-royals, expand this role. They present Anubis as a figure who guards the tomb and also speaks words of power, utterances that seal the grave, repel enemies, and stabilize transformation of the soul. Spells call him immute and describe him as standing at the head of the deceased during key transitions. By the time of the Book of the Dead, his presence is woven through countless spells and illustrations. He leads the soul through the Duat, oversees the weighing of the heart, and ensures the correct rites are followed. Certain spells ask Anubis to make firm the steps of the dead or to lift them upright, phrases meant to guarantee safe movement through the afterlife. These texts were tools, activating through voice, gesture, and memory. Anubis was called by name, honored through ritual, and inscribed so that every passage, every danger, and every door had already been accounted for. Anubis did not vanish with the last dynasty. As Egypt shifted under new empires, he adapted. During the Greco-Roman period, Egyptian and Hellenistic beliefs fused to create Hermanubis, a syncretic deity who blended Anubis with Hermes, the Greek psychopomp. Like Anubis, Hermes guided souls, and together they formed a hybrid god who bridged cultures. Hermanubis was often shown in Roman art as a man with a jackal's head, holding a caduceus and sometimes an ankh, a visual blend of Greek and Egyptian motifs. Though not widely worshipped, his image appeared in magical papyri and private amulets, showing how Anubis's function continued even as his name changed. As Christianity spread, Anubis faded from religious life, but his image persisted. During the 18th and 19th century, the Western world experienced a wave of Egyptomania. Obelisks were raised in city squares, tombs were excavated, and Anubis emerged again. His black jackal form, once a guardian of the soul, now became a subject of fascination, mystery, and eventually reinvention. Occult circles in the 19th and 20th centuries, including groups like the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, invoked Anubis in rituals that borrowed loosely from ancient texts. He was recast as a gatekeeper of hidden knowledge, a protector of sacred thresholds. In modern times, Anubis appears across media, shaped more by aesthetic than accuracy. Yet even through these changes, the silhouette remains unchanged. The jackal-headed figure still lingers at the threshold, patient and present, a symbol of transition that continues to hold his place in culture. Anubis is still here, in the silence before the end. He stands where he always has, at the threshold, watching, waiting, not to save, not to condemn, but to guide. A jackal in the dark, a shadow at the veil. The passage begins, and he is already walking beside you.